Have you realized that you see mostly the negative in different situations? Would you like to start seeing how you could change that to positive in every situation? Be sure to watch this video to hear our discussion. I run the concessions at the soccer complex in our town. On the menu, I have kitty dogs, and then I have jumbo dogs. There is a gentleman who comes up every single season, and he asks me to rename the kitty dog. Why? Because he doesn't want to get something that's for children. He doesn't want a kid thing. Instead of looking at it, because he always buys one, you know, because he loves the price and the taste of the hot dog. But instead of looking at, oh, this is a really good hot dog, he's looking at the name. Oh, it's related to kids. Oh, that has to change. You know, there's just this negative thing in his mind about it. This relates to everything that we're talking about today. Changing our perspective and making that a positive thing. See me? Kitty dog. Well, hey, I like the kitty dogs. I'm still a kid. I'm still having fun, I'm still youthful, but no, this gentleman wants to be the adult, the grown-up, so no kitty stuff. You see the difference?
But he likes the hot dog.
But he loves the hot dog. He always buys one. Despite the name being a kitty dog.
Despite the fact he always complains while he's placing his order.
Yes, he does. You've got to change the name of this. Do something else. Small dog, big dog, something different, really. So that's one example for you, just to start off with something really simple that you can change. Maybe you've got something that you look at the product and you go, they should change the name of that. Think about it differently. It might help you.
Okay, now that's a good example. One that comes to mind for me is when we start to get close in the beginning, right?
Okay.
And I know you've said in the past that you already knew me. Like, I guess you saw me around just doing things, just working in the office. Mm-hmm. But once we got closer, we were working together, I would look at you and you'd be like, what did I do wrong? I said, why would you ask that? And it's just because I look at you. Okay? And I'd ask you, how am I looking at you? But you would literally get defensive because I'm looking at you.
Yes.
Explain that one. Do you remember that?
I vaguely remember it, but as you say it, I remember my parents would always give us looks. And that's how we'd immediately know you're in trouble. You did something wrong. And it's hard for me to describe the look, but it's one that as soon as I would see it, I would immediately get defensive. What did I do wrong? What am I missing? And I just associated that with everybody because I didn't know any different. I figured everybody reacted that same way. I never studied people.
Got it. So I must have been giving you the same type of look.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Another one that you used to tell me about was my tone. You said, well, why are you using that tone? You're angry. And I said, I'm not angry. You know, and I even now I can be like, I'm not angry, right?
Right.
And I'll do that. But in the past, just by me saying this right now, you'd be like, you're angry right now. That's the way you would respond or react. So what was with that one?
Well, because whenever anyone was angry with me from the people that I knew, that I grew up around, they would yell at me. So you raise your voice, you're yelling. Why are you angry with me? Why are you mad? So I just associated it with everybody does that whenever anyone raises their voice. And that's not the case, I've learned.
So now...
There are people who just naturally talk loud all the time. And I learned that through business.
Especially if you're Italian.
Italians, some Nigerians I've met.
Exactly, right?
Woo! These are very high-strung people.
Well, even Chinese.
Oh, yes.
And Koreans, they always sound... If you
They
don't
always
know,
sound angry.
They sound angry, right? See? But they're not.
Yes.
So what are we saying here? Well, why do we bring these examples up?
Because I think that a lot of individuals should step back and realize that part of it might be a cultural thing,
Uh-huh.
and part of it might just be that that's how that person has learned to behave and react and respond. So we should just listen to what they're saying more so than the tone of what they're saying or how they look.
See, I was told a long time ago, and this is when I was introduced to the teachings. I remember reading something that was dictated, I think, by Saint Germain, either Saint Germain or Moria. And it went like this. It was a story about this gentleman that wanted to go to heaven. He wanted to go to heaven so badly, right, that when he died, he wanted to go to heaven. So he did everything he could to ensure that he would make it to heaven. And this one day he met this individual who was drunk, just completely drunk. And the individual asked him for some help. I don't recall what the help was. But the individual was obviously in pain, right? He asked him for help. And the guy that wants to go to heaven just ignored him. Just kept going. Another time, he saw the same individual lying in the gutter. It's pouring rain. The guy's lying in the gutter. And he asked him for help. He could just help him get into some shelter, right? Because he didn't have the energy to get up on his own, the strength to get up on his own. He just ignored him. So he finally passed on. He went to heaven, as Catholics would say. And then he got there, and he was rejected. As they say, go to that gate, and they say, nah, you're going the other direction. Well, he was rejected, and he asked, well, why did I be rejected? Then he saw the person that he rejected twice walking around the gate. And he asked, well, why is he there? He is a drunk. And I said, no, he was an angel that we sent to see how caring you were about someone that needs your help. And you proved to us that you weren't caring enough. And then he learned that you shouldn't judge people by the way they look. You shouldn't judge people by the way they sound, or because you've had certain experiences with people like the one you're seeing now, that all of a sudden you put that person in that category. He learned that. So I don't know if I made a point with that.
Oh yes, judging is a huge thing, and I used to do that a lot before I started learning about the teachings and just changing my perspective in life. I would be in different situations where I would start talking with people, and I always talked about the hardcore stuff, religion, politics, money, those kinds of things. And those are supposedly the things you're not supposed to talk about.
Right.
But especially when it came to religion, because I was very much into the faith that I had, the Catholicism. And my view was anybody who was not Catholic was wrong. And whenever someone would talk to me and try to explain to me their view so I could see things differently, immediately I'd say, oh, they've got the wrong interpretation. They don't know what they're talking about. They're wrong. They're just trying to get me to sin. They're trying to get me to lose my faith. And I always blamed them for trying to do something to me.
So you got defensive.
I got very defensive.
Okay.
And I would get into arguments, and I would get flustered and walk away not knowing what else to say, because I figured they needed saving and they thought I needed saving. So it was just a constant battling and butting of heads. And I remember having a lot of arguments like that. It's easy to do in politics. And now, when I was in the financial services industry, talking finance with people, depending on their culture, they see money differently. And trying to help them understand a different way or help them see a different way of dealing with their money, I would get frustrated because I'm like, well, why can't they just see this? Why can't they just understand this? And that's where I learned that I need to deal with them at their level. That's their level of understanding. And I know we've talked about this a lot in many videos. And it's the same thing with religion, politics, family, relationships, anything and everything. It's understanding that they're at a different level of understanding, but it's how you react and respond that makes the difference.
I remember being certified for this training with Stephen Covey years ago. All right, you remember that?
I remember that. We went through that together.
And there was this whole thing about rule number 1, I think it was. First, seek to understand.
Seek first to understand
Seek
before
first to
seeking to
understand.
be understood.
Exactly. All right, say that again, please.
Seek first to understand.
So let's discuss that a little bit. Seek first to understand. What does that mean?
That means to listen to the other individual and do your best to understand where they are based on what they're saying
And then the second part is,
before seeking to be understood.
what does that part mean?
That means that once you know where they are in their thinking and their perspective, now you can talk to them based on where you are to help them understand what you want or are trying to say. Or maybe it will help you better to ask questions so you can understand more about them.
Right. It's more like, I don't even go to number 2.
Well, that's not even number 2, it's just the other half of the sentence.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You know,
Statement.
number 1, number 2.
Oh, got it,
first half,
okay.
second half. I don't even go there. Because what do people love most?
They like to argue.
No.
No? Okay.
People love to talk.
People do love to talk.
All right? So they love hearing their voices. So then what do? If you want to learn more about somebody and really what somebody's like, ask questions.
Right.
You know, ask questions because you genuinely want to know. Not ask questions to keep the person talking, but you really want to know and understand the person. So now this topic is what? How to find a positive
Yes.
in everything, right?
Yes.
So if someone starts talking about anything, for example, someone is telling you about your religion or the time of religion, and then you disagree immediately, what does that tell you? How much listening are you doing?
I'm not.
Right.
I've shut them off because I'm already judging them.
That's correct. Right? The moment you get defensive, and then you start to put adjectives in front of what the person is saying, you know now that you're the one judging. And then, of course, you want to blame the other person. All right, so you might say, what? Oh, these Jehovah Witness people. I say that because I know growing up, I used to see a lot of Jehovah Witness.
Yes.
Even here, they used
Even
to come
here.
to us, right? And then buzz your doorbell. I'm like, no, bye, right? So that's why I bring that up. I'm not saying they're bad people. You know, they do their recruiting. That's their way to recruit. That's a
Right.
good example right there. Right, when they come, you've seen when they come, they give their stuff, say, okay, yep, I'm not interested. Thank you for coming.
Right.
I'm a Catholic and I'll stay a Catholic. Finish, right? And they're nice enough to leave. But it's not out of anger. You know, I know what they want to do. I'm not interested in being recruited, and it's finished. But if someone insists on talking because they're trying to recruit you, what do? Let them know, listen, if you continue, I will leave. It's that simple. Because you don't want to expose yourself to that. You know, if you continue, I want to let you know, I want to be polite about this, but I already expressed to you how I feel. You know, it's not something I'm interested in. Please respect my space. Please respect my opinion. And if you want me to stay here, let's talk about something that we can both discuss. Otherwise, I'll leave. Just let them know you'll leave. You don't go shouting and screaming. Even if you just step outside.
Right.
You know, go for a walk.
Go to the bathroom.
Exactly.
Stay in there for a while.
Right? You've seen me do that. Where I see where it's just useless, someone is not listening, what do I do? What do I used to do?
You used to walk away.
Right?
Let me deal with them.
And I'll just say, well, no, I'll just say, I'll be back. Then I leave. Wasting time putting adjectives or judging people's behavior, you get frustrated, you raise your stress level, your body, the chemicals in your body goes out of whack, and now you are out of whack with your behavior.
Right.
It doesn't do any good. So there's always something good in what someone has to say. All you have to do is find it. What are some
Right.
examples of that?
Well, one that keeps coming into my head as you're speaking is when our children were younger and I would take them to the doctor. And then, of course, the doctor and nurse would always try to convince me to get all these shots for the kids. And I would listen to them and I'd tell them no thank you. And then they try to make me feel guilty or tell me that, I'm going to harm them and that they can't get into
Right,
school,
that's
all
right.
kinds of things to try to make me decide to get these shots for the kids.
Right, their vaccines.
Right. And I would just keep myself nice and quiet because I wasn't going to start arguing or anything with them. And I just say, well, thank you very much for all the information. If you have some information I could take home with me, I'll read through it and consider it. I have to discuss this with my husband. I always had something to tell them. But I kept my cool and I thanked them for the information. I thanked them for their concern because to me it was genuine concern. That's part of their job. They're supposed to help take care of the public and make sure they're healthy. So I thanked them for that. And I would say, I'll talk to you next time.
And that's their training. That's how they train. Remember that. So that they believe that. That's their belief system.
Right.
And then you take me with you, and then what happens?
Yeah, you tell them. Not so much. I just remember you saying, no, we're not doing that.
No. I told them, once I brought it up, I said, well, I know it's your job to mention this.
Yes,
So
you would
we're going
say
to
that
be
a lot.
quiet, go ahead and mention it, just in case they're recording. But when you're finished, you know we're not going to do it. So you can
Right.
document that you informed us and write in your notes that we said no. Remember that?
Yes, you
And
did that
that's how
several
we dealt
times.
with it. So every time we'd go, after a while they would just go, okay, I know you're going to say no, but let me just remind you about it. Then they'll go through the whole thing and
Right.
do their little signature on their paper, and that was the end of it.
Uh-huh.
And that's how you deal with it. You don't argue, you just let them know this is the way it is, and it's not going to change, but whatever you need to do, you go ahead and do it. Let's respect each other, is the point.
Exactly.
What else?
Um,
Well, first of all, let's say, for example, like the one time when we were driving out of the Walmart parking lot,
okay.
and you put your head in the way and I couldn't see because of course you're on the passenger side but you want to drive, right? So I have to look to my right but somebody's head was in the way, so I'm unable to
I'm
see
checking
anything.
traffic because that's what I'm used to doing.
Right? So here I am, I'm checking, I only see your head, and so then I'm driving out of the parking space and all of a sudden this loud honk comes and we could see that the guy was angry, right? Because he almost hit the vehicle we're in. What did I do?
I don't remember, but I remember you were saying, that's why you should sit back. That's why you shouldn't be a passenger driver.
I lowered the window and I raised my hand and I said, sorry, I apologize for that.
That's right.
Remember that?
Yes, and then he made some gestures towards you after
Exactly.
that.
It wasn't very nice.
They
the
were not
gesture he
nice
made.
at all.
But what did I do? I didn't respond back. I just said, you know what? He has a right to do that because what I did endangered his life.
Right.
See, so we also have to know, we have to be responsible for our action and our behavior. All right? And people have the right, to they have their own perspective. We also, but we are smart in the sense that we have the ascended masters that guide us. We know we should act out of love all the time, unconditionally. Now, somebody out there will easily say, well, what if they just keep doing it over and over?
Yep.
We keep acting out of love over and over. Because soon enough, it's like water. Okay, here's a river or a stream, and the water is flowing, and there's this big rock in the middle of that stream. What does the water do? It says, I give up, I'm going to turn around.
No, it keeps going around the rock.
Exactly. Keeps going around, and what happens after a while?
The rock gets worn away. And then finally, the water goes over the rock.
Because now the rock becomes really small. It becomes a pebble after a while, right? That's how we're supposed to be. We know we're strong. The only reason why we will get frustrated and we will get upset and start putting labels on people is because we have allowed them to have power over us. That's the only reason why.
Yep.
If you know that you're more powerful than somebody, what do? Are you scared of them?
No.
Are you frustrated when they come around?
No.
Yeah, because you know that you have it totally under control. And that's what water is. We always say, be like water. Flow like water. Go around whatever it is. And there are ways to go around anything. And you wear it down. And in our case, we'll wear it down with love. And the more you visualize what it is that you want, the more it comes to you. And that's the most important thing. If you're out there calling someone some negative adjective, right? What do you think is happening to you?
the same thing.
Right. Somebody's doing the same thing to you.
Yes.
And the more you do it, the more it comes back at you.
Yes.
And normally, guess who's doing it? The same person that you were aiming it at.
Mm-hmm.
And then you say, those are some really bad people. Really? Have you looked at yourself lately and how you're behaving? You're doing the same thing to them, so why are they bad?
Mm-hmm.
But then you're fine. You're this saint. And then you'll say, what? Well, they did it to me first. What does that sound like?
Sounds like blaming.
All right?
And I used to do that, especially with my family, my siblings and cousins and everything. And I always thought they were always wrong. And they were always judgmental. And they were the ones who were everything negative. And I know I've told you, I expressed that to you in the past. And then slowly, as I kept on decreeing and learning about the teachings, I realized, oh, I'm bringing this on. I'm bringing on all of the hatred that I saw that's coming at me. I have to change this. And I did. Mm-hmm. I stopped addressing anyone in any kind of negative fashion. I would just say, oh, well, my sister. Instead of saying, my sister who really hates me and, she's so judgmental and whatever else I would say. So I stopped that. And I just said, you know what? If all the Ascended Masters can teach us out of love and how to address one another with love and through love, I can do the same thing. So that's what I started to do. And everything changed. Now there are no challenges.
Exactly. Because
None.
You're not creating any.
That's right.
Interesting, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the way it goes. That once an individual realizes that what that individual is experiencing is because the individual is putting it out, it changes. If you keep saying that your spouse is a terrible person,
Mm-hmm.
guess what's going to happen?
You're supposed to be a terrible person.
You're supposed to be a terrible person.
Mm-hmm.
Now, somebody hearing this will say, but my spouse is a terrible person. Exactly. Guess why? Because you have put that energy on your spouse.
Mm-hmm.
That's why your spouse continues to be a terrible person. If you put the energy on your spouse, the frequency, you raise the frequency. It's a loving spouse. Very loving, very understanding, very
Mm-hmm.
supportive. Just like water, as you continue to do that, it will wear that frequency that's on your spouse, and now it becomes loving, supportive, because that's what you put out.
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
Now the key is patience. If you think you're going to do it 2 or 3 times and expect your spouse to change all of a sudden, it's not happening.
No.
Right?
Yeah, it's consistency.
It's consistency,
Consistently implementing it.
And that's what it takes. It's not once or twice. I think that people have read stories in the Bible where Jesus goes and puts his head on somebody and, oh, they're no longer blind.
Right.
Well, you know what? It takes more than that, okay?
Mm-hmm.
You have to be consistent. Consistently doing the things you're supposed to do.
Right.
Consistently implementing the tools that you have. And then you'll see improvement.
Mm-hmm. Especially for me in relationships. I noticed that deeply with my family, that it took great consistency and patience from my end and for me to bite my tongue and be quiet and just listen to them. Because they would come at me, Laura, you should be doing this. Laura, you shouldn't telling me all the time what I should do. And I'd be like, in the past I would think, well, who are they to try and tell me what to do? They're the ones who need to know what to do. But changing that and changing that my mentality helped a lot.
Okay.
I think we've got the topic covered, but if you have questions, let us know. Remember to subscribe and like this video. Join the Facebook group 190 Vision to connect with others on the same journey. Get help by visiting our website 190vision.com. Support the 190 Vision mission by clicking on the donate button, which is at the bottom of each page of our website.